I am pleased to announce the newest feature that has been added to PraxiSchool. We have created an interface between PraxiSchool Student Information System and Google Classroom. I want to take a moment to explain what this feature does. First of all, under Teachers, I'm going to select Google Classroom. The first time you come in, you will need to connect to your Google account, and then you will come into Google Classroom. Now, there are different parts. First of all, there's classes, then there's staff, there's students, assignments and grades, and we have a help section. And I'm going to go to the help section first, and I'm going to expand the help on the Google Classroom interface. And this will show what PraxiSchool's interface to Google Classroom does. First of all, classes always must be created in PraxiSchool. But if they're created in PraxiSchool, we have a feature where you can automatically create that class in Google Classroom, and Praxi maintains the link. Now, in the event you've already created the class in Google Classroom, it must be created in Praxi, but there is a feature whereby you can link the Google class to the PraxiSchool class. Then rosters, the enrollment of your students in classes. They must be enrolled in Praxi to create the roster record. And if you've done that, from Praxi, you can populate your Google class with those rosters automatically. Now, in the event the students have already been added to Google Classroom, if you are just starting to use this feature, there is a feature whereby you can link the student inside the Google Classroom to PraxiSchool. Now, if you create a class or you've linked a class under your email, that takes care of that. The purpose of Teachers is where you are simply going to invite another teacher to be a part of the Google Classroom. And that is one way it happens from Praxi to Google Classroom. If you have already invited a teacher and they have an email that is consistent with your domain, and if that teacher has gone into Praxi and created any kind of a class, then Praxi already knows the link between the teachers. Then there are assignments. Now, assignments, you have options. First of all, you can create the assignment in Praxi and populate it to Google Classroom. So it will create the assignment in the Google class. Or if the assignment is already created in the Google Classroom and it is created in Praxi, then we can link them together. If, however, the assignment has not yet been created in Praxi, but it's been created in Google Classroom, then we can create the assignment in Praxi from Google Classroom. We simply have to select the class and the component that that assignment is going to. Then there is the interface for grades. And the purpose of grades is that you can download grades that you've issued in Google Classroom to Praxi. You simply select the assignment, the class, and the assignment in Praxi, and then tell it to download. Now I will demonstrate with the interface how these features work. First of all, if I go to Classes, you will have on the left side in the PraxiSchool classes, classes that are assigned to you in PraxiSchool. Classes that are already linked to Google will have the little link icon next to the subject name. If the class is not yet linked or created in Google Classroom, then there will be a red X. In order to create a class in Google Classroom, we simply click on the class or classes that we want to create, and then under the Utilities menu at the top right, we will click Create Google Classroom Class, and that will create the class in Google Classroom. Now, in the event the class was created in Praxi and created in Google Classroom, then all we do is we can come up here to this bar that says Link Classes, and we check the Praxi class that we want to link, and then we check the Google class that we want to link, and this link button will be enabled so we can link it. You'll notice here for me it is not enabled. The reason is because this class is already linked. So if a class on the Google side or on the Praxi side is already linked, you cannot link it. Now, in the event you need to break a link to a Google Classroom, let's say you made a mistake and you did the wrong class, then you can check a class, come up to Utilities, and say Clear Selected Links. Then Praxi will no longer recognize that Google class, and you can either recreate it or link it, whatever is the case. If you're going to invite other teachers to work in your Google Classroom, you simply go to the staff file, select the teacher, and then you will click Invite Selected Staff. When you do that, under the div and Teacher Invites, they will appear here until they accept the invite. Then they will appear in the Google Classroom Teacher section once you have selected a class. When I select this class, notice it shows that I am the teacher, but now I could invite another teacher to that class. Let's move to the Students tab. In the Students tab, we have a list of the students. We select a Praxi class at the top of the screen here, and when we do, it simultaneously selects the Google class that it is linked to. If you happen to select a class and there is no Google class, then you will not be able, obviously, to enroll students in it. So we need the Praxi class created, we need the Google class created, and they must be linked in order to populate with students. But once we've done that, we simply select the class, then we select the student or students that we want to invite, and we go to Utilities, Invite Selected Students. And that will send the invitations. When students are invited, they will appear under the student invite until they accept the invitation. Then they will move to the Google Classroom students. When you invite a student, they receive an email from Google Classroom, and all they have to do is click a link to accept. Now we will move to assignments and grades. When we are working in assignments and grades, the first thing we must do is select the class that we are working in. I've done that, and this will also link to the appropriate Google Classroom class. Since we're working with assignments and grades, then we must select the component. I'm on classwork. I have 2 assignments in classwork. If I go to homework, I have 1. If I go to quiz, I have 2. If I go to test right now, I don't have any in Praxi. So if you've created your assignments in Praxi, you can select the assignment on the left-hand side and then say create that assignment in the Google Classroom, and it will create it for you. However, if the assignment is already created, then under Link Assignment, you will select the assignment, and see by coming here and clicking it, I'm selecting the assignment. Then we can select the Google assignment, and I can't link these because this one's already linked to a Praxi assignment, so it won't let me link it. But if it were not, the link button would be enabled, and that's how you can link an assignment that is in Google Classroom to an assignment that is in Praxi. Also, you can say, I want to download the assignments, because if the assignment was created first in Google Classroom, we can create it in Praxi with this interface. Now, if you've already created it, you want to link it. However, if you have not yet created it in Praxi, then we can click on the Create Google Classroom Assignments in PraxiSchool, and we have to first of all say, what component is this assignment part of? Because for your averaging of grades, Praxi needs to know what component this assignment is in. So if it were a homework assignment, we would select homework. Then we would select the assignment or assignments on the Google side and click the button to create selected Google Classroom assignments in Praxi. That will actually create the assignment in Praxi, and they will be linked. Now, when it comes to downloading grades, right now none of my students have accepted, but once they have, it will be here, and of course you will go through the process with Google Classroom of scoring and eventually returning the grade to a student, which gives them a final grade. Now, we do not offer support for Google Classroom. So if you don't know how to use Google Classroom, it's important that you go on the web to find out how to do that. But once you have the students here with their grades, then you will select the students, and then under Utilities, you will click Transfer Grades from Google Classroom, and that will download the grades to the assignment in Praxi, so you don't have to enter them manually. If you have any questions about any of this, I'm going to refer you again to where I started, the help section. The first section, it shows the diagram of what Praxi interface does. Then we explain the options under classes, under staff, under students, under assignments, under grades. Of course, assignments and grades both happen under this one tab called Assignments and Grades. But here's what we do with assignments, here's what we do with grades. And then there are a couple special issues that if you have them, you can refer to this section for some help. We hope you find this new feature in PraxiSchool to be beneficial to you, and happy computing.